The series begins inside a ruthless royal palace, where powerful ministers gather to accuse a royal concubine named Seo. Throughout the palace, she is known as a cruel and manipulative woman who will do anything to get what she wants. No one realizes that behind her cold appearance hides a kind-hearted woman who was forced to become strong just to survive the evil surrounding her. The ministers demand her execution, and the request is quickly approved. It almost feels as if the king had been waiting for this moment, even though there was once love and playful affection between him and Seo. As usual, they exaggerate every accusation and frame her for crimes she knows nothing about. As the palace descends into chaos, Seo remains chillingly calm in her chambers, finishing a painting while her handmaidens wail in grief. "What's the rush?" she asks with an icy gaze. "The canvas isn't finished yet." Facing the executioners, she looks at the ministers and sees nothing but hunting dogs waiting for their prey. She describes herself as a short-lived flower, beautiful yet destined to wither prematurely. Despite a shaman's desperate rituals to save her, Seo's rebellion is fierce, shattering bowls of poison and demanding an audience with the king for justice. But the king never comes. In a brutal final act, she is restrained and forced to consume the lethal dose. As her life fades, nature rebels. Snow falls in the scorching summer heat, and a solar eclipse plunges the world into darkness. The court celebrates, believing her death marks the return of peace. Her eyes close, and her breath stops. But death was only the prologue. Seo awakens to a harsh, blinding light and a voice commanding, "Now drink the poison!" Expecting the afterlife, she instead finds herself blinded by studio lights and surrounded by cameras. The ministers are actors, and the palace is a set. Concubine Seo hasn't just cheated death. She has been reincarnated into the year 2026, right in the middle of a historical movie production of her own life. Seo awakens in a daze, completely disoriented by her new surroundings. By a stroke of fate, she has landed right in the middle of a poisoning scene. The director, captivated by her striking presence and raw intensity, immediately decides to cast her as the lead actress's stunt double. Seo, however, is bewildered by the strange attire and the long hair of the men around her. As the cameras roll and the prop poison is placed before her, the trauma of her past takes over. Still believing she is in the Joseon-era, Seo vows not to let history repeat itself. She refuses to be forced into submission and begins physically striking anyone who dares to approach her. To her surprise, the director is awestruck by her realistic acting and commands the crew to keep filming, even as she literally clears the entire set with her combat skills. Meanwhile, we are introduced to Kang, a cold and brilliant CEO renowned for his ruthless corporate takeovers. When an adversary attempts to blackmail him with fabricated videos, Kang effortlessly flips the script, forcing the man to sign over his company in silence. Despite his reputation, Kang shows a flash of integrity by allowing the man to keep his personal shares. His assistant Hyun feels a pang of pity for the defeated rival, but Kang sternly reminds him that in this world, it is destroy or be destroyed. Back at the set, Seo's friend tries to calm her down, stunned by this sudden explosion of strength. It becomes clear that Seo's soul has inhabited the body of a girl who looks exactly like her, a timid, struggling extra who used to be a pushover. Seo, indifferent to the explanation, begins to navigate this terrifying new world. She encounters foreigners and assumes she has been exiled to a distant land, only to be baffled when they speak fluent Korean. Her first encounter with a smartphone sends her into a panic, screaming, "How can I see myself inside this piece of iron?" Finally, catching a glimpse of her reflection in a modern mirror, she gasps in horror at her own face. "What is this? Why have my cheeks sagged like this?" Meanwhile, Kang discovers the deepfake video targeting him. He lashes out at Hyun for the oversight, but Hyun reassures him that legal action is already underway. Ever the opportunist, Kang's anger quickly turns into intrigue. Impressed by the technical brilliance of the forgery, he decides to acquire the culprit's company as well. At the same time, Seo recalls the shaman's cryptic prophecy, "You must die to truly live." Noticing that a permanent scar on her hand has vanished, she realizes her soul has indeed taken residence in a new vessel. We are then introduced to Tom, Kang's cousin, who carefully maintains a charitable public persona at an orphanage. However, during a press interview, his resentment toward Kang flares up when the reporters focus their questions entirely on his cousin's success. Elsewhere, Seo struggles to suppress her regal mannerisms to avoid suspicion. Her friend is left in stitches over Seo's archaic way of speaking, joking, "We need a shaman to exorcise whatever historical ghost has possessed you." When the producer and the arrogant lead actress, Park, arrive to reprimand her, Seo shuts them down with cold, royal disdain before performing a graceful princess exit that leaves them speechless. Her friend is awestruck by her newfound backbone, but Seo's composure shatters the moment a cell phone rings. Terrified, she recoils, gasping, "How does this piece of iron have a voice? How is it speaking?" On the road, Kang finds himself trapped in heavy traffic. Hyun reminds him that a solar eclipse is due today, a rare phenomenon occurring for the first time in 300 years, the exact anniversary of Seo's death. Suddenly, Seo spots people dressed in the garb of Joseon-era criminals, extras from a nearby set. Terrified that they are assassins out for blood, she hitches up her robes and sprints through the streets, screaming, "It's a rebellion! Run for your lives!" Overwhelmed by the towering skyscrapers and the chaos of the modern world, she suffers a panic attack and collapses unconscious directly in front of Kang's car. A panicked Hyun swears to Kang that he didn't hit her, insisting she fainted from pure shock. Seo suddenly jolts awake, screaming like a madwoman, and darts into a street teeming with speeding cars. Kang is forced to chase after her like he's trying to catch a stray chicken just to save her life. When he finally yanks her onto the sidewalk and begins berating her for nearly getting them both killed, Seo, maintaining her icy royal pride, swiftly slaps him across the face. A crowd gathers, assuming they are just a couple having a lover's spat. Suspicious as ever, Kang suspects she's a hired plant sent to scandalize him and offers her money to go away. In response, Seo beats him with a dried flower branch, hitting him right where it hurts. The scene devolves into a full-blown street brawl. Kang forgets his prestige and fights back, while Hyun stands on the sidelines, laughing and enjoying the absolute absurdity of the moment. Finally, Kang tosses her his business card to cover any injuries and storms off in a fit of rage. Hyun tries to lighten the mood, joking to Kang that he checked his horoscope and knew today would be a disaster, which is why he's staying on his toes. Meanwhile, a disoriented Seo finds a glimmer of hope when she spots an ancient map engraved on the ground depicting the landmarks of Joseon. Noticing a school field trip heading toward a museum, she follows them closely, genuinely believing they are on a journey to travel back in time. The true crushing blow awaits Seo inside the museum. She is horrified to find her own painting, the one she labored over in her final moments, attributed to someone else. Her name has been scrubbed from history, and where she is mentioned, it is only as a villain. When she desperately tries to correct the tour guide, the woman dismissively replies, "This is what the official records say." Seo leaves the building shattered, unable to fathom how her struggle for survival earned her such a blackened legacy. As she wanders aimlessly, she encounters a university student researching the Joseon-era. When Seo asks about the villainous concubine, the student explains that while unofficial records suggest she held the greatest power in the palace despite her humble origins, the common people loathed her, branding her the evil queen. Seo continues her journey, drowning in bitterness and grief at the harsh reality of how history chose to remember her. The shaman summons Seo and, through her rituals, confirms that she isn't possessed. Her soul has truly traveled through time. Meanwhile, as Kang steps out of an elevator, he catches a glimpse of a girl in traditional robes and recoils in terror, traumatized by his recent encounters. His assistant, Hyun, teases him relentlessly, saying, "You know what they say, the girl who slaps you is the one you'll end up falling for," earning him a look of pure disdain from Kang. Wandering through the rain, Seo mourns her ruined reputation in the history books. However, as the cold drops hit her skin, she realizes she is truly alive. She decides to view this miracle as a reward, a fresh start to love herself and live freely, far from the palace's cruelty. With sharp intuition, she looks at the address on Kang's business card and decides to find him, seeing him as the perfect shield to protect her and help her navigate this strange new world. We learn that Kang's grandfather is the one who entrusted him with the family companies. He reprimands Kang over the viral street brawl video and reminds him of his repeated failures in marriage arrangements, noting that Kang treats women like business transactions rather than human beings. Seo arrives at the corporate headquarters like Alice in Wonderland. She finds a crowd of girls dressed in Joseon attire for a casting call to find a new brand ambassador. She looks at them with regal contempt, convinced that no one wears the robes as authentically as she does. A receptionist assumes she is there for the audition and tells her to wait her turn. There, she encounters the arrogant actress Park, who tries to provoke her by accusing her of stalking. Seo shuts her down with icy indifference. "I didn't even notice you were here, let alone put you in my thoughts." In the midst of the chaos, a mysterious figure is seen scaling the emergency stairs toward the company rooftop. Seo leaves the other candidates in awe of her confidence and sharp wit. She enters the interview alongside Park. When the recruiter asks Park where she sees herself in 5 years, she puts on an act and replies, "In a quiet home with my husband and children." Seo immediately shuts her down, saying, "This is a corporation, not a marriage bureau. If your only ambition is motherhood, why are you here bothering us?" At that moment, Kang arrives and visibly flinches upon seeing Seo, fearing another slap. He refuses to listen when she tells him she's there to offer him a deal. Undeterred, Seo stalks him like a shadow until he exits the building. Losing his patience, Kang orders security to drag her away. Suddenly, Seo senses a breath of death lingering in the air. She begins to scream, desperately pulling Kang away from his car while shouting that he is in grave danger. He dismisses her as insane just as the sun begins to vanish, plunging the afternoon into an eerie, premature twilight. With surprising strength, Seo breaks free from the security guards and shoves Kang aside. At that exact second, a massive structure plunges from the rooftop, completely crushing the roof of his car. For the second time, Seo has saved his life. While unconscious, Seo dreams of being back in the palace. The king is laughing with her affectionately, offering her a herbal tonic. However, the moment she notices it is served in the same poisonous bowl from her execution, she recoils in terror, shattering the bowl and begging him not to hurt her. She jolts awake to the sound of Kang calling her name, her eyes fixed on a bouquet of red flowers, still haunted by the nightmare of the poison. Seo sat with Kang, who demanded to know, "How did you know there was danger?" She replied with unwavering confidence that she had years of experience sniffing out conspiracies before they struck. Having countless enemies in the palace turned her into a human radar for disaster. Instead of thanking her, Kang grew suspicious, accusing her of being planted in the middle of the plot and working with his would-be assassins since her coincidences were becoming too frequent. Furious, Seo snapped back, "If I wanted to hurt you, I'd do it instantly without a plan." In the end, Kang coldly dismissed her, and security escorted her out by force. Seo immediately regretted saving him, but she found Hyun waiting to drive her home on Kang's orders. Inside the car, she was terrified of the seatbelt and the speed, which made her dizzy. She begged him to slow down, to which a bewildered Hyun replied, "Ma'am, I'm only going 20. A bicycle could outrun me." Meanwhile, at the birthday banquet for Kang's grandfather, we see a family that is anything but sincere. performing acts of love while boiling with internal resentment. The grandfather praised Tom as the only loyal one among them, triggering a flashback to 17 years ago. Back then, the grandfather needed a liver transplant. All of his daughters made excuses, ranging from breastfeeding to asthma, to avoid donating. Only Tom, who was in the military at the time, immediately agreed to donate a portion of his liver. Because of this, the grandfather constantly holds Tom's sacrifice over his daughters' heads, commanding them to smile in his face day and night. Seo steps out in front of a dilapidated boarding house, and her shock sets in as she compares it to her palace, seeing it as nothing more than a chicken coop. The receptionist scolds her for being late to see her grandmother, but as soon as she enters, the old woman welcomes her with warm hugs and a home-cooked meal. Despite her habitual suspicion of everyone around her, Seo's heart softens when she sees the marks of hard labor on the grandmother's hands. Even though the food is nearly inedible, Seo finishes every bite so as not to hurt her feelings. Unlike the receptionist, who makes a run for it using stomach issues as an excuse. At the grandfather's house, Tom continues his angelic act, making excuses for Kang's lateness. However, when Kang arrives, he greets Tom with icy indifference. It's clear he doesn't trust Tom's over-the-top kindness. Kang instructs Hyun to keep a close watch on the family above all others, calling them masters of hypocrisy. He also orders him to keep Seo under constant surveillance, still convinced that her sudden appearance in his life was carefully orchestrated. Back at the boarding house, the grandmother sees Seo off, handing her some money with a look of immense pride. For the first time, Seo feels a sense of genuine, selfless love and concern. She returns to her room, a space no bigger than a matchbox, and immediately gets into a fight with the receptionist because the window overlooks a dark air shaft. He fires back. "You want a view of the Han River for 2 pennies?" The moment she tries to sleep, she discovers that the walls are as thin as cardboard. Every time her neighbor knocks, she bangs back, and the whole situation turns into a drum session. The neighbor storms out to scream at her, expecting the same timid girl he used to bully, but he is blindsided by the real Seo. She wipes the floor with his dignity, coldly telling him, "If you don't like it, leave." She then turns to the receptionist and adds with biting sarcasm, "It seems the gentleman expects people to stop breathing just so he can rest in peace." Seo humiliates her obnoxious neighbor in front of everyone, describing him as an animal who thrives in filth, winning the silent cheers of the other tenants as she slams the door in his face. Once alone in her room, she marvels at simple modern comforts like a desk lamp, but her awe is cut short by a haunting memory of the palace. The time she was locked in a wooden chest with a heavy stone on top while being beaten with pure malice. She vows that from this night on, she will sleep in safety. Strangely, Kang is plagued by the exact same nightmare. He sees himself in the Joseon-era, hearing the muffled screams of a woman trapped in a box. He wakes up in a cold sweat, disturbed by the recurring dream. Meanwhile, Seo flips through the diary of the body's previous owner and discovers she was a timid girl who worked herself to the bone to provide for herself and her grandmother. Seo decides right then to compensate her for all the weakness and injustice she suffered. The next morning, Seo happens upon a documentary about the Korean Wars and breaks down in tears. Caught in a wave of nationalistic fervor, she runs through the halls, banging on every door to greet the tenants as if it were Independence Day. Later, while doing laundry, her danger sense flares up. She flings a wooden stick with expert precision, striking a hidden man who was secretly filming her. To top it off, she catches her obnoxious neighbor stealing her food from the fridge and exposes him in front of everyone, forcing him to flee the boarding house in shame. Elsewhere, Tom's true colors begin to bleed through. He stalks Kang to his friend's medical clinic, asking probing questions and lingering in his car like a shadow. Back at the corporate headquarters, Seo sets an ambush for Kang. When he spots her, he defaults to his usual arrogance. "Get to the point. How much money do you want?" Seo remains unshaken, looking him in the eye and declaring that she isn't interested in a payout. All she wants is to work as his personal bodyguard. Kang dismissively brushes Seo off, telling her to shoo, only for her to deliver a swift kick to his shins that leaves him howling in pain. As she walks away, she delivers a final warning. She has officially set her sights on him. Later, Seo visits the shaman, forcefully borrowing some money to get her affairs in order. Meanwhile, the true extent of Tom's malice is revealed. He has planted a listening device in a flower vase at Kang's doctor's office, eavesdropping on his most private medical secrets. In the entertainment world, the director remains obsessed with Seo's performance. However, his overworked assistant snaps and goes rogue, stealing the raw footage. To spite the director, he leaks Seo's clips on YouTube. The footage goes viral instantly, amassing over 1 million views as people are mesmerized by the raw, terrifying realism of her poisoning scene. Kang's marketing team presents the video to him, suggesting they capitalize on her overnight fame for their new campaign, but he stubbornly rejects the idea and demands an alternative plan. SEO, meanwhile, is living life to the fullest. She discovers the wonders of modern sweets, ice cream, and snacks, marveling at the scientific miracle of refrigeration. Having spent all her borrowed money on food, she decides it's time to find a job. She approaches interviews with her typical royal confidence. When asked about her skills, she proudly declares, "I am an expert at sniffing out traitors, punishing the incompetent, and forcing rebels into submission." Naturally, these answers get her kicked out of every establishment with strict warnings never to return. In a fit of rage, she begins tearing down job flyers, only for her obnoxious neighbor to mock her, sneering, "Who would hire someone with a temperament like yours?" Suddenly, he receives a notification for a job opening and sprints away. SEO chases him down, outrunning him to the location. They both end up working for a home shopping channel. Thanks to Seo's massive viral fame, every product she touches or presents sells out in seconds. The stock vanishes into thin air the moment she appears on screen. As soon as Kang witnessed Seo's massive television success, he ordered Hyun to sign her immediately. She had become an advertising powerhouse. Any product she touched sold out in seconds. The show's director was desperate to lock her into a contract before anyone else could, while Hyun fretted because Seo wasn't answering her phone. A stubborn Kang threatened him, insisting he find her at any cost, a complete turnaround from his earlier dismissal. SEO began dictating her own terms, demanding 7 times her original salary for overtime, and the producer quietly agreed because she was a goldmine. However, during a live segment, they presented her with a herbal drink in a bowl that looked exactly like the one used for her execution. Seo spiraled into a breakdown. Haunted by palace flashbacks, she shattered the bowl and fled the set in a daze. When the producer caught up to her and began berating her, even attempting to strike her, Kang suddenly appeared and gave him a brutal thrashing, having tracked her down through the live broadcast. The real shock came when Tom arrived on the scene. The moment Seo saw him, she froze in terror. We discover that Tom is the spitting image of the king, the man who betrayed her and ordered her death. He is the same villain, past and future. Overwhelmed, Seo fled to the rooftop of the building, unable to believe her eyes. Kang followed her to the roof to discuss the contract and his need for her services. At that moment, the predatory Tom appeared behind them once again. Paralyzed by fear, Seo clung to Kang for protection and spoke the words he had been waiting to hear. "I need you to protect me." And with that, we've covered all the episodes released so far. Stay tuned.